is known as $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers' best bet or daily package for only $2.
Hey guys, welcome in at a very, happy Tuesday here. Week 7 of the college football season is upon us, and a lot of midweek games here. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday before we get to the big slate on Saturday, but have no fear. We've got 3 games that we are going to break down with 3 of the absolute best at WagerTalk.com here on this Tuesday as we welcome in the legendary Ralph Michaels in the house, Tony Mejia, and a man who needs no introduction. Dave Cokin, I'm sorry. I just thought he didn't need an introduction, but there he is. He's on the screen, guys, and welcome into a Week 7 Tony Mejia, one in which we got a lot of those top 25 contests going on here this weekend. A lot of hype. I guess we're going to learn a little something about a whole lot of teams here. How about you, though? What do you got ready at WagerTalk.com for us?
Well, we got MLB playoff packages. I hit both of my free plays, which I gave out free on the Phillies eliminating their opponent this weekend. So that was solid. Took out the Cardinals. And then on Sunday night, I was on the Padres to beat the Mets. So hopefully that carries over to the divisional series. And I've got a couple of plays tonight. A little bit on this Astros-Mariners series that kicks off, or first pitch at the bottom of the hour. Mm-hmm. So riding with that, NFL and college basketball as well. College football, I should say, and obviously we've got the NBA starting up next week, so I'm excited for that.
I was going to say that's ballsy, like it's 6-1. They're up on the Braves, but are you calling the Phillies? I thought you were calling the Phillies already, but you were talking about the weekend.
Last week, yeah.
Last week.
I did not touch that.
I was going to say that's ballsy.
Right.
6-1 in that game right now. Yeah, they're Ralph Michaels. What's going on here, my man? I know you got college basketball just around the corner for us, but you got college, you got NFL. What else is happening over at WagerTalk.com?
Well, I just started NHL a year ago, and NBA, I had the season that was crazy. So I do have a special this week. It's buy a 7-day all access for the price of 3. But here's what I would suggest. I'll start loading my college football plays tonight. When you go and you use the coupon WOW59, you'll pay $59 for that 7-day all access, and you could start the package on Saturday. It'll still get you all the plays I'm loading now, and then start Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Number 2 NHL win percentage last year, top 5 NHL profit, number 1 NBA win percentage, and number 1 NBA profit last year. The doubleheader in the NBA, 7-day all access will get you all of that. Start it this Saturday, because I'm not a big fan of this midweek schedule in college football. In fact, I might not have a midweek play at all. So WOW59, your coupon code.
All right, WOW59 it is, and it's a good time of year, Dave. I know you're excited. NHL just around the corner tonight, in fact, with a couple of games. Great scheduling spot, by the way. The NHL kicks off, and you've got 4 Major League Baseball playoff games going on. But what do you got ready to go for us here in the NHL season, as well as college football and the rest?
Just the usual grind. It's as simple as that. I'm having another good year overall. I just grind it out. Not a lot of volume, not a lot of big plays. But the profits are substantial, and that's it.
Yep. And that is what it's all about at the end of the day, guys. The profits. And we're going to see if we can't find a couple of angles here to give you an edge with these games today. Starting with one, I believe, on Thursday. We're going to take a look at Baylor laying 3.5 against West Virginia, the Mountaineers. Total 55, 7 o'clock Eastern time on this one. Dave, I'll come back to you. Tell me what you think about the Mountaineers taking on the Baylor Bears here.
I think it's a good number, so I'm not going to play the game. As far as what I think it's a pretty big coaching mismatch here. that favors Baylor. Neil Brown I think he's be borderline hot seat in West Virginia. I think Mountaineer fans probably think it's probably more severe than that. They might be right. Program has not gotten better under Brown. And, I watch West Virginia play, and they don't scare anybody. Okay? They're just kind of average at everything. I think Baylor's going to be the better prepared team here, and I don't think they're going to be overwhelmed by the home field, which isn't as strong as it used to be in Morgantown because the program is kind of stalled somewhat. Weeknight game, they'll be fired up, but if Baylor gets onto a lead, not sure how long that lasts. I guess it sounds like I'm making a case for Baylor. I sort of am, but I don't want to lay 3.5 either, so I'll call it a lean on the Bears side.
All right, leaning towards Baylor here with Dave Aranda giving a thumbs up and a coaching mismatch. How about you, Ralph Michaels? What do you think here? You leaning Baylor as well?
Well, you look at Baylor's 2 losses this year. They go to BYU. They lose 26-20. Then last week against Oklahoma State, it wasn't quite that close. They got a lot of garbage yards in the second half, so I'll discount that. But I agree with Dave. I'm not a fan of this West Virginia fan. And then you take Donaldson, C.J. Donaldson, the converted tight end to running back, 6.9 yards per carry. He missed last week. What did they do against Texas? 61 rush yards, 2.0 yards per carry. He won't be playing today. I think Baylor's defense against that offense is the mismatch. And I'll tell you what, if you are a fan of defense and defensive linemen, Siake Iku, the 360-pound defensive tackle for Baylor, he sort of reminds me of what some guy who plays for the Rams used to do at Pitt as the defensive tackle. He gets double-teamed and triple-teamed, and he changes the whole dynamic of the Bears' defense. I think that's the biggest mismatch on the board. That has me leaning to the under. I'm not enamored with Chapman at quarterback. And the Baylor rush attack, averaging 4.6 yards per carry when most of those yards came against Texas State and Albany. Their other 3 games against BYU, Iowa State, and Oklahoma State, they averaged 2.9, 2.9, and 3.7 yards per carry. Give me the under in this game.
All right, leaning towards some defense here, Tony.
Hey, let's see there for a second.
I think we lost Joe completely. So, Tony, I'll intro this for you. Let's take a look at this Baylor West Virginia game and fire away.
I thought it was me. Look, I don't think it can be, more of an issue made out of the fact that C.J. Donaldson is out. I mean, that kid is impressive. He looks bigger than everybody. He's just a freshman. He's averaging 6.9 yards per carry. So he changed the backyard brawl against Pittsburgh in catching everybody by surprise and really establishing a run game for West Virginia that I didn't think would be there with Letty Brown gone. So not having him is a huge blow for the Mountaineers. Baylor has lost, all 5 times they've played in Morgantown since joining the Big 12. So it's been a house of horrors for them. I think history has to play into this line because I think this line is too low with Donaldson out and Baylor clearly the much better team. Matt Rule being ousted at Carolina. I see he's already number 1 on the wish list for when West Virginia gets rid of Neil Brown. And I agree with you, Dave. I think he's on the hot seat. I think it's hotter than what you think. I think it's getting downright scalding. He's 19-21 over his 40 games. You said the word mediocre. Definitely agree with you there. And I think for Aranda, this is a big deal because you've got a team that lost to Baylor. They gave up 36 points. That's not what the Baylor culture is. Aranda, one of the better defensive coaches in the country. The Cowboys now have 2 of the 3 highest scoring games against Baylor since he took over. So maybe it's just a bad matchup. But I don't think West Virginia is going to be able to do much offensively. I lean towards the under, and I would definitely lay the points. I think at this point, the one thing that you worry about with Baylor is Blake Shapen and the fact they don't let him throw downfield very often. But he does have Monterey Baldwin in. That's a legitimate playmaker. They've got 5 running backs that they can use to wear West Virginia down. I think they ultimately will.
Matt Rule, by the way, I'll give you a prediction. I'm sure West Virginia would love to have him. No chance. Okay, he's not going to go to a Big 12 program. He'll end up either in the Big 10 or the SEC, and I think Nebraska might be the favorite. All right, on Saturday, there are 3 games this week. This is only the second time. Chris Fallick actually pointed this out. I don't want to take credit for it. This is only the second time that we've had a Saturday with 3 matchups of teams with better than 5-0 or better records opposing one another. One of those is in Tennessee with the Volunteers. They're getting game day there on ESPN for the second time in like a month. Alabama unbeaten, Tennessee unbeaten. Ralph, let me start with you. What do you make of this game?
Okay, Dave, when's the last time these two teams played in the 3rd Saturday of October and they were both undefeated? I went to the Alabama media notes, 1989. So it means quite a bit for Tennessee. You know, another thing is, remember, Alabama lives on game day. This was from Alabama's media notes. Since Saban's been there in 2007, Bama's been on game day, either at Alabama or the road team, 45 times. Ohio State 36 and LSU 25. So they're 21 times more. They're used to big games. Obviously, to start the video, it's Bryce Young. I'm making this saying Bryce Young is going to be healthy. It looks like he's going to play. He started to go through walkthrough. So this is with Bryce Young there. But I'm impressed with Tennessee. How can you not be the number one offense? Last year, it did concern me. They played 5 teams where they trailed at halftime and they couldn't handle the pressure and they didn't come back from any of them. So I am concerned a bit, even though Hendon Hooker has, a 10-0 ratio, the number one offense. It does concern me if Tennessee does get behind by multiple scores, if they're going to change the offense and force the throw down. But I look at the Tennessee offense and it hasn't been stopped. They're averaging 180 yards more than their opponent's average. Well, you look at Alabama's average, they're allowing 251. So that gets Tennessee to 430, 444 yards. Is that enough to cover as a touchdown plus home dog? I believe it is. For those that say Alabama's on sale, you're getting the Crimson Tide only laying 7.5. I went back and looked since 2000 and, let me pull up my data, since 2007 with Saban there, Alabama is only 10-11 ATS as a single-digit away dog. So those that think this Alabama line might be a little short, their last 2 times, 2017 and 2019, they were a short away favorite to Auburn, and they lost those games outright. So can Tennessee handle the pressure is what this comes down to. If they get the early lead, I may be a fan of live betting them. If they get behind, I don't trust them yet. Yes, they went into Pittsburgh, had a great road win against the sold-out crowd. Yes, they went into LSU, blew them out after getting an early lead. They're the only team in the FBS that has beaten 3 ranked opponents this year, so you can't say they had an easy schedule. They played a very difficult schedule, and they held it. But to me, I can't get to the Tennessee side yet. I lean the Vols, but I will watch and enjoy the hell out of this game.
Tony, there are, as we mentioned, 3 matchups of unbeatens. TCU, Oklahoma State, Penn State, Michigan. But this one is, I think, the one that's going to get the most attention nationally because it's Alabama, it's Nick Saban, and here come the Volunteers who are back to getting more than 100,000 people at their games in Neyland Stadium. How much is that home field advantage factoring into your analysis of this game?
I mean, if Bryce Young is out there, you're fine if you're Alabama. If it's Jalen Milroe, considering what he did at home. Now, because if you have Bryce Young playing, I don't think we know that until day AC joint. He's just taking mental reps at this point. We won't know for sure, and that's if Saban lets us know that he's practicing in full until later in the week. And I thought it was curious that he name dropped him at the end of that game. He typically has tunnel vision. He said, "Well, we'll probably get or not probably, but hoping to get our quarterback back next week." I found that curious that he mentioned him. I'm worried about Alabama's secondary. I thought Texas A&M with Haynes King had way too many opportunities where they went downfield and had completions. Eli Ricks, the LSU transfer, just posted on his Instagram earlier today, I know what to do, and it was him in an LSU uniform. So clearly there's some controversy going on there in that D-backs room if he's talking about transferring back to LSU. He's Alabama's most gifted corner. Jordan Battle's one of the best safeties in America, so I'm not worried about him. But I am worried about that secondary and the fact that A&M was able to move the ball, especially without Aeneas Smith, that you basically got two receivers in Moose Muhammad and Evan Stewart, and they both did what they wanted in that game. Milroe with the turnovers. So if we have Bryce Young out there, I feel better about Alabama. But whether he plays or not, I think Tennessee is as a home dog, definitely live in this game to win outright. You know what Hendon Hooker has done for Tennessee since joining up as the starter there. 41 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions. Last year against Alabama, the only time he's played the Crimson Tide since transferring from Virginia Tech. 3 touchdowns, an interception. He had them up 14-7. So after the first quarter. If Tennessee's defense can hold up, and again, it's depending on who the quarterback is, whether that happens or not, I think Tennessee will score enough to win this game. This Alabama defense, from what they've shown me right now, overhyped, and they put themselves in danger of losing to both Texas and Texas A&M. And I don't see, Dave, Ralph, I don't see a Jalen Waddle, a Devontae Smith, a Jerry Jeudy, even a Henry Ruggs who threw away his life on this Alabama roster to make life easier for the quarterbacks. If it is Milroe, Jermaine Burton, the Georgia transfer, probably their best receiver, but he's not on that level. So I think Alabama is in trouble this weekend in Knoxville. Take the points with Tennessee.
All right. So my analysis on the game, we know about Hooker. If you're voting the Heisman Trophy today, I think Hooker wins it. Tennessee has been terrific running the ball and throwing the ball. But the one aspect of this Tennessee team that has been basically ignored is how good the defense has been, especially the rushing defense. It's been outstanding. I think they can force Alabama to throw the ball in this game. Now, Bryce Young is going to play. I'd be shocked if Bryce Young isn't playing in this game. Nevertheless, I've been high on this Tennessee team since before the season started, and here's where I find out if being high on them means that I'm correct or I'm just kind of high, because this is the game for them. I was not impressed by Alabama last week against what I think was an ordinary Texas A&M team. Good defense, terrible offense. It wasn't just Young being out. Okay, Alabama wasn't dominating in that game. I think Tennessee's got a real shot in this game. I played them last week against LSU. I've cashed a few tickets on Tennessee already this year. I'm going to be on them again in some fashion this weekend. Tennessee plus the points is on my card. For our third game, it's Duke and North Carolina. And we'll go back to the coaching thing here. Duke is the side that has a coach right now who's in great shape because the team has had a good first season under him. I think Mac Brown is done after this year. I don't think he's on the hot seat in terms of getting fired. But North Carolina was a disappointment last year. They're not having a real good season this year. I think he will graciously step away at the end of the season. And I think Tar Heel Nation knows it, and I think the players on the team know it. That might serve them well toward the end of the season, win one for the Gipper type of stuff. But against an opponent like Duke, I don't know. I don't think this is a game North Carolina is going to be fired up for. I think Duke is going to be the more excited team in this matchup. And despite the fact that North Carolina has the better talent, I will generally be going with the team I think has the higher excitement level. I think it's the Blue Devils here. Give me Duke plus the points in this game. Ralph, how about you?
2 weeks ago, Dave, I thought I would be on Duke in this game. But last week's performance against Georgia Tech just scares the living bejesus out of me. Getting outgained Georgia Tech 412 to 278. Riley Leonard 20 of 40 against the Georgia Tech defense, which is middle of the road, and that's probably being generous. But you look at this North Carolina defense, they're no better. North Carolina allowing 68.3% completions. So, yeah, I think Riley Leonard's going to be able to move the ball. I think that 20 of 40 game on the road last week was more than an anomaly, and I think he'll move the ball. But you have Derek May with a 21-3 ratio, completing 68% against a Duke team, which allowed 24 of 36 last week. Weather's going to be 5% chance of rain, winds 6 miles an hour. Yes, I'm a little bit concerned. Duke is without their leading wide receiver, Calhoun. It made a big difference last week. He didn't have a go-to guy. Calhoun is going to miss this week as well. If Calhoun was there, over might have actually made my card. Clearly a lean for me, though, in this game to go over the total.
Tony, I'll go to you with this thought. It's kind of a devil's advocate thought from what Ralph just said. I thought Duke, look, the Georgia Tech game wasn't very big to them. Georgia Tech's a different team since Collins was shown the door. They've actually played pretty good football the last 2 weeks. I thought Duke was in a dead spot, that this game with North Carolina was a look ahead for them. I expect a better Duke performance this week, and not liking what I see out of the Tar Heels. Talk me off the Blue Devils side, Tony.
Well, props to Brent Key, first of all. He's doing a great job resuscitating Georgia Tech. Maybe he'll keep that gig. But as far as Duke, I can't. I'll talk you out of it. I'll try because I think you're wrong on this one.
All right.
They played Kansas, obviously, in Lawrence as their toughest opponent, and I respect the hell out of what Lance Leipold has done. And that Kansas football team, even in the most recent loss, they fought to the very end against TCU. Who else have they played? They beat Temple. Who cares? They won at Northwestern. Northwestern was coming back from Ireland, and that win over Nebraska that was obviously overhyped because that Nebraska team isn't very good. Northwestern clearly not very good, so they won that game. They played North Carolina A&T, and they've played a bad Virginia team, and that's who they beat. So they come off a Georgia Tech squad. That makes North Carolina the best team they've faced all season. I like what Gene Chizik has done with the UNC defense over the last 2 weeks. Even without their safety, Don Chapman, that's their best secondary player, and a key defensive tackle in Ray Vohasek, they held Miami to 42 rushing yards, and that was the key to that victory. That game went well under the posted total. They held Virginia Tech, also not a very good football team, to just 10 points on October 1st. So clearly it was a young defense coming in. One thing I know Gene Chizik can do is coach defense. I think he'll end up replacing Mac Brown. So I think you're right there. I think this is Mac Brown's swan song. You know what else Mac Brown doesn't want to do in his final year? Lose to Duke when he never has. 11-0 in this Liberty Bell game dating back to his first tenure. So I think he'll have his team fired up. I mean, it's Duke, North Carolina. So I think North Carolina will definitely be up. It's in an opposing stadium. Duke has actually won 3 out of the last 5 in this series in Durham after Carolina dominated with 11 straight wins over the 20-year period from 90 to 10, most of that with Mac Brown. I like Drake May better than Riley Leonard. I think he's coming off a rough performance, and I think that continues. Give me North Carolina to get their 4th straight win over Duke. I don't like the number. I think it should be a little bit lower. So I probably won't make my card, but as far as a lean, I like North Carolina to hammer Duke.
Hey, Dave, let me just
Tony,
jump
let's
in
stay with you.
Let me just jump in with one more point. I'll tell you what, I watched the North Carolina game against Miami and the Notre Dame game. That O-line is in shambles. They've allowed 14 sacks the last 5 games. Now, that's something to keep note of. Duke may not be able to take advantage of that this week, but 2 weeks from now, when North Carolina plays Pittsburgh, I'm going to put that over under sacks at like 5 that week, and we'll see what happens.
All right, Ralph, let's stay with you as we go to best bets. You're going to talk about a game we've already talked about, the best bet, but I want you to let everybody know once again about that coupon code you've got going for a really terrific offer.
Thank you, Dave. Again, new to the NHL, a lot of volume. Last year was my first year. My 5% in the NHL last year, a perfect 10-0. So looking forward to that. I don't know a lot of players. I don't do a lot of prep work. So in the NHL, I won't be using many games early. I play situations and just try to find handicapping spots that I like from the database. But number 1 NBA win percentage and profit, the code WOW59, 7-day all access for the price of 3. And if you go in today, take advantage of the special, but start it on Saturday to make sure you get full value. Best bet, as we talked about, Baylor and West Virginia under the total Thursday night. Iku is an absolute stud. Watch him. It'll maybe the first time you watch a defensive tackle the entire game. He's worth it.
Tony Mejia, I have determined, I've done some calculations on this, Tony, and I think I'm right. Based on the volume of sports you cover and the extensive work that you put in, I mean, these write-ups that you do are sensational. I have determined that you sleep on the average of 16 minutes per night. And I lean to the under as far as that goes. I tell you what, it's phenomenal stuff. Tell us what you get going. And also, real well, can't be that much more. Also, tell us about your best bet, because it's a game we haven't talked about yet. That means it's an extra game. Everybody watching the show right now, Tony's best bet for this edition of College Football Today. What do you got, Tony?
What really sucks, Dave, is I used to sleep a lot less. So clearly getting into my 40s is catching up with me. But yeah, I mean, I read as much as I can, and I have to stay on top of everything, and that includes really getting up on NBA to hit the ground running there. But we're in football mode, clearly. And I think Tulane, if anybody got a ticket, it certainly wasn't me, on Tulane to win the American Athletic. Obviously, it would have been paid handsomely. You got a shot at this, because Cincinnati is not as good as we anticipated they would be. My UCF Knights, they're going to have issues offensively, even though the defense is a little better than I thought it would be. Houston, shell of what we expected. Ditto with SMU. Memphis is a non-factor. This Tulane team, 2-0 in conference already, 5-1 overall. They had a letdown after beating Kansas State and losing to Southern Miss. Nearly lost to Houston, but pulled that out with a third-string quarterback playing. And Michael Pratt is really good, and he came back and looked tremendous against East Carolina. It looked like he hadn't missed a beat. And the key with Tulane is they've got the nation's stingiest pass defense. And you could see it last week against Holton Ahlers, who's a veteran at East Carolina. There hasn't been a defense that he hasn't seen. He really credited that Tulane defense was stopping the Pirates, who hadn't been held in single digits for years, with Ahlers at the controls. This Tulane defense is legit. Pratt is legit. They've got some playmakers on offense, and they're going into Tampa. It's homecoming for South Florida. That doesn't mean anything, because they play at Raymond James Stadium and can't fill that thing because the program has been so bad. And they come off another moral victory. They had a moral victory against Florida earlier in the season, came back out and got destroyed the next week. Had a moral victory last week. They led Cincinnati in the fourth quarter. I think they'll come out and get destroyed this week with the Green Wave. You only have to lay 12, lay the points with Tulane. They're legit.
All right, I'll get to my best bet in a moment. A couple of things to promote. I don't have anything special going on. What I'm doing, I've got the NHL, college and pro football, and college basketball just around the corner. I'm still doing golf. I just missed this weekend, which irritates me because I probably should have had a winner, but that's the way it goes. But anyway, we're grinding out another very positive year in terms of the overall net profits. So get a pass, get the all access, get in, and get the wins. I want to mention that tomorrow, Drew Martin, Vino and beyond, Ralph Michaels will be back again, and the games are covering on the Wednesday show. It's a good lineup. The NC State at Syracuse matchup, LSU Florida, and a huge game, Penn State and Michigan, one of the unbeaten battles this week. That's going to be a tremendous matchup, and I want to hear what those guys have to say. For my best bet, you can go back to the clip earlier in the show on the Alabama-Tennessee game. I'm going to be on Tennessee in some fashion. I don't think it'll be bigger than a 3% play, but I am going to play Tennessee plus the points. I'm trying to get the best number I can. I'm anticipating maybe the line goes up a tick once it's announced that Bryce Young is playing, because I do think he will play. And if he doesn't, then I'll set up a +7 with no Bryce Young. Either way, Tennessee, my best bet for the show. That's it. Great job by Tony Mejia. Great job by Ralph Michaels. I thought this might have been Joe Ranieri's best hosting job ever. My name's Dave Cokin. Thanks to Rob Harris for keeping it rolling behind the scenes. Great job. We'll be at it again tomorrow. What am I supposed to say here? Hit the like button, whatever, leave your questions, comments, that stuff I don't know how to do. Joe knows how to do that better than I do. But you guys watch all the time. You know what to do.